The backing fabric should be taped to your floor using painter's tape to prevent any shifting. A 3-inch overage is necessary from the quilt top. The second layer is muslin. This should measure the same as the quilt top. The third layer is carded wool. This can be as thick or as thin as you'd like your quilt to be. The fourth layer is another layer of muslin. Again, this should be the same size as the quilt top. The final and fifth layer is the quilt top. This is the work of art that you have likely been working on for weeks, if not months. You can also use cheesecloth as an alternative to the muslin. So the next step is basting your quilt. Basting is just a way to temporarily hold all of your layers together so that you can either hand tie or machine quilt the quilt. So you're going to need some safety pins to do the basting. This is an example of regular safety pins, and these are large regular safety pins. But what I prefer are the curved quilting ones. The difference is that it has a slight bend in the pin. And these are the largest that you're going to find. The more common size is the smaller size. And again, this is going to have the curve to it. I like this size for doing quilts that are used for a wall hanging or any quilt that uses commercial batting. So there's polyester batting, there's cotton batting, but all the commercial battings are going to be pretty thin. But of course, on my channel, we use carded wool, where the layers are very thick and lofty. So it's pretty essential that I use these large ones right here. Materials needed for hand tying a quilt. Yarn. I prefer 100% cotton. A scissors. A large needle with a large eye in which the yarn can fit through. A regular threader will not work. You will need a heavy-duty metal threader to thread the yarn. A non-slip kitchen grip is an excellent tool for grabbing hold of the needle and pulling it through all of the layers. It can be quite difficult to pull through all of the layers. Alternatively, you could use a thimble. I prefer the kitchen grip. A minimum of 8 to 10 inches should be hand tied on your quilt. I prefer less spacing. Pull the needle from the top down. Use your kitchen grip and pull through. Leave a 2-inch tail. Feel from underneath the quilt and reinsert about 1/8 of an inch from the original spot. Grab hold of the needle and pull up. Pull tight. Rock the thread back and forth to assure there's no remaining slack. To do a square knot, right over left and cinch down. Left over right and cinch down again. Trim the tail. Trim all of the ties on the quilt so they are symmetrical. You may leave them as long or as short as you prefer. Here I used black yarn to blend in with the border fabric. The backing fabric must be trimmed down. My preference is 1.5 inch. What you trim it down to will determine how thick or thin your finished binding will be. Use a cutting mat to protect your floor, a quilter's ruler, and a rotary cutter. Do not have the carded wool close to the perimeter. This will make sewing difficult. Start by folding the sides of the quilt. This will be the left and right sides. We are using the background fabric as the binding. Fold the back fabric to meet the edge of the quilt top. It will be folded over a second time. I use wonder clips to hold the fabric. Folding the corners. The left and right sides have been completed. They have been folded over twice. Now we will be folding the top and bottom of the quilt. Fold the corner in a triangle where the edge meets the edge of the quilt top. Then you will fold the remainder of the fabric to meet the edge, just as we did on the sides. It will be folded a second time. This will make a mitered corner. Again, fold the corner. Meet the two edges together. Fold a second time. We're going to demonstrate a corner another time. Fold your triangle so the edge lines up with the edge of the quilt top. Hold that in place. Fold the remaining border over one time so the backing edge meets the edge of the quilt top. You can secure this in place with wonder clips or pins. Make sure there are no wrinkles in the fabric. The first folding has been completely clipped with Wonder Clips. Now, removing 2 clips at a time, do the second fold. This will make a mitered corner. Clip again. Remove 2 clips at a time, continue to fold. Make sure the yarn does not accidentally get stuck in the fold. The entire quilt has been clipped with Wonder Clips. It's better to have too many than not enough. The quilt will be rather heavy when you bring it to your sewing table. Make sure your mitered corners look good. Take the quilt to your sewing machine and begin stitching. The line should be near the inner part of the border, as seen. I'm going to show you 3 examples of quilts that I've made with carded wool. This was my very first quilt that I made with wool. I made it in 2018. It's actually made out of men's dress shirts and a tablecloth that I got from my local thrift store. At the time, I didn't want to invest in a lot of expensive fabric when I wasn't quite certain of my sewing skills at the time. I had a lot of fun making it. This second quilt is probably one of my favorites. I'm very much a tomato addict, and I also like breeding tomatoes, so the tomato and corn theme was very fun. The backing fabric was supposed to look like grass, so I chose the green striping. And this third quilt is the one that I've showcased in the video. This is sized for either a full or a twin, although I have it on a queen size bed in the video. And this was supposed to be just a fun one. I had some really cute sheep fabric, and this is what I came up with for using it. This is probably the loftiest quilt I've made. I kept the wool carding very thick in this one. I hope that I have inspired you to try making your own quilt with wool. If you'd like to learn more about wool, from the sheep to the finished product, stick around on my channel. Thanks.